a member of the class of 1963, and also a 2010 Sports Hall of Fame inductee. Pete will be introducing Richard L. Whitmore, class of 1933, for induction, and the award will be accepted by his son, Dicka. Peter.
Thank you very much, Brian, and congratulations to all of the honorees today. I had the great pleasure of watching that 61 baseball team play. I remember Richie Ashley as a young man, watching him play when I was at St. Dominic's, and Brother Brennan, I passed across many times when you brought your teams over to Weston High School, and he always did quite a number on us. So congratulations. I am thrilled and very honored to have been asked by the Whitmore family to present Richard Dicka Whitmore, class of 33, for induction into the Cheverus High School Hall of Fame. He and my dad, Cupie Foley, another Cheverus alum, were best friends growing up and remained very close throughout their lives. And in 1930, he played on the state championship basketball team with my uncle, William Hooker Foley. And yes, everyone in that era had a nickname. Dicka played football, basketball, and baseball while at Cheverus, earning a total of 10 varsity letters. As mentioned, he was a member of the 1930 state championship basketball team and was all-league in football in both 1931 and 32. After graduation, he prepped for a year at Coburn Classical Institute, where he made All-State in football. In the fall of 1934, he was awarded a scholarship to Fordham University and headed off to New York City. And that is the equivalent today of perhaps receiving a football scholarship to Ohio State or Penn State, because at that time, Fordham University was one of the top football programs in the country. The nation was still in the depths of depression at this time, and as mentioned, Fordham was one of the premier collegiate programs in the country, playing all of their home games at the famed Polo Grounds, drawing upwards of 50,000 fans to all of their games. During this period, college football ranked second only in popularity to Major League Baseball, and consistently outdrew their professional counterparts in what was eventually to become the NFL. Dicka played 4 years of football at Fordham, and his head coach was Jim Sleepy Crowley, one of the famed Four Horsemen from Notre Dame. This was the era of the 7 blocks of granite, and his teammates included Vince Lombardi and Wellington Mara, whose family had been the longtime owners of the New York Giants. The 1936 team just missed going to the Rose Bowl when they were upset in the final game of the season by crosstown rival NYU at Yankee Stadium. And in 1937, he played on the undefeated team that went 7-0, and for 3 straight years, they played consecutive 0-0 ties with University of Pittsburgh, which was one of the true powerhouses of that era. Coach Whitmore returned to Cheverus in 1939, and for the next 7 years was the head coach of football, basketball, and baseball. This 1940 basketball team won the state championship, and in 1944, the Stags were the only team to defeat eventual New England champions, Waterville High School. From 1946 to 49, he coached at Danvers, Mass, before moving on to Weymouth, where his 1953 basketball team won the Massachusetts State Championship and the New England Class B title. While at Weymouth, he also served as an assistant football coach and was part of the then state record 47-game winning streak. In 1958, he moved over to Archbishop Williams High School and served as the line coach for a team that put together another 40-plus game winning streak. I had the pleasure of being with Dicka Whitmore on multiple occasions while growing up, and he had the unique ability to make you feel like you were the most important person in the room. He was always encouraging me to keep my grades up and stick with your swimming, because it's going to take you places. Without him ever knowing it, he was a big influence on my life as a teacher and a coach. A humble man, outstanding athlete, an effective teacher, an extremely successful coach, and most importantly, a great family man, I am very proud to present Richard Dicka Whitmore for induction into the Cheverus High School Hall of Fame. Accepting for his father and on behalf of his family is his son Richard, a longtime athletic director and legendary basketball coach at Colby College.
Thank you, Peter. To be able to be here is of immense honor to our family. On behalf of my sister Maureen and my brother Martin, we are pleased and proud to accept this honor. On behalf of one of the great people in the history of the world. My father was a child of the Depression, but he became a son of Cheverus. That opportunity allowed him to be able to make a pathway toward a life he would have never known. That aspect of what he was able to do, he always paid respect to Cheverus High School. And the many times that we drove to Portland, we always somehow ended up taking a trip around that led us to Free Street and gave us a chance to be able to see what Cheverus was all about. As an individual, my father was the first of his family to go to college. He would never have gotten to college without Cheverus High School. When he went to college, he had a chance to go to New York City. And I would always ask him, I said, Dad, how was New York City? And I'm not sure he ever left his room. Because he would always be talking about different things, about being able to play. Because what he said one day, I was so scared when I went to that first football practice. And from that time on, all he did was think about his studies and his football. That aspect of him probably established a faith that was among the most significant that I've ever seen in an individual. Because what the Jesuits gave my father was an opportunity to be able to probe deeply into himself and to be able to find out what his true faith was. At the age of 24, he had the opportunity to return to Cheverus as a coach. And the plan at that time was for him to come to Cheverus, to come back to the Jesuits, to be there for a couple of years, and then go into the seminary. Because he was that deeply involved in his faith. On his first team that ended up winning the Southwestern Maine Championship was Lockley Jennings. Lockley Jennings was a wonderful player. Lockley Jennings had a sister named Mary. That sister named Mary changed the plan. And otherwise, I wouldn't be here, and our family over here would not be here. And it was an amazing relationship that lasted through the course of 6 decades. And at that age, he now was faced with a lot of challenges. One of the challenges was basketball was not his best game. He was a wonderful football player, a wonderful athlete, played for the Portland Sagamores for many years. And in basketball, he needed help to be able to establish philosophical base and technical base. And he was so fortunate because he met one of the great men in his life, Jim Cannella. Jim was a postmaster in Rockland, and he was kind of the guru of the 30s and 40s in basketball. Jim's son, Jim, is here today, and I'm so proud that he is, because I remember the two of them linking up when Jim used to come to our home down in Massachusetts when they won the championship in the Boston Garden. And it was an absolutely wonderful relationship, and it's something I'll never forget, and our family will always be thankful for. And as that developed and evolved, glory of the days of 1939 and 40 and 41, right through the time that he left Cheverus, were fantastic memories to my father, and he always talked about them with reverence. And then, through the course of the next 3 or 4 years, we began to have a family, and we ran into a very, very difficult situation because our mother became ill. And through the course of almost the next decade, it was a very difficult situation to deal with. And my father went to Danvers and had great success as a coach. As he had great success as a coach, they wanted to move closer to Boston in order for my mother to be able to get treatment. And miraculously, he had got this job at Weymouth. And when he went to Weymouth, he had a chance to be able to be in a fantastic athletic community with people that had been part of his Fordham experience. One of the young men that played in his program is John Burgess. John is over here, and John was a wonderful athlete at Weymouth, became captain of football at the University of Massachusetts, also played basketball at the University of Massachusetts, and has had a wonderful coaching career. And we're so pleased and proud that he's here. And there became a time that in the spring of 1950, that my father had to make a decision. We were having a difficult time, or he was having a difficult time being able to pay for what was the medical treatment that was going on. And as that occurred, he now had to make a decision. And the decision he made was to work a second job. So what he did over the course of the next decade was to teach school from 7:30 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, come home, go across the street from where we lived, which was across the street from a railroad station, and take the train to Revere and work a second job that ended up at midnight. And he did so for 10 straight years with the exception of his basketball season. And I'll never forget that particular portion of life because he was able to do this with the faith that everything would be okay once he was able to get through the experience. And he did so. And from that particular time on, he made our family stronger. And this is what he was able to do and give for us. And the faith that he had and the faith that he lived with, and he was someone who, I would say, if there were 365 days in the year, he was in a church 363 of them, because that was how strong his faith was. And what he gave to us as a family was the ability to be able to know and understand that we could be able to get through anything. And that aspect has carried on through the generations, and what he has been able to give us is a gift that is fantastic. The gift of Magus that Cheverus uses, the experiential aspects of being able to give and reach out to others is absolutely and positively phenomenal. No one gave more than he did. And throughout the course of time, you would always have great experiences with my father. And in 1963, my father took me to Fordham for the 25th reunion of his football team. And one of the members of the football team, actually one of the members of the 7 Blocks of Granite, was Vince Lombardi, who was at that time the coach of the Green Bay Packers. And going to New York City, being able to see what was the experience that my father lived through, and then all of a sudden, my father says, "Here's Vince." And I turn around and he says, "This is Vince Lombardi." And Vince goes, "Dicka!" And he shook my hand and probably almost knocked me down with the strength of his grip. And he said to me, he says, "Always remember, your father was the toughest guy I ever played against." And that particular moment, I think, crystallized just what the power of the experience that I had with my father was. And anything that I've been able to accomplish, anything that I have been able to be part of came through my
Thank you, Dick. Cheverus is blessed in so many ways.